Hey everyone, Kathy the Vegan Prepper here, out early in the morning, picking some greens for a smoothie. And I thought that I would take you on a very quick tour of the current perennials that I have in my central Arizona garden. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First up, we have grape vines. Now it is the end of September going into October, so these guys are not at their peak anymore, and they're definitely in need of a trim. So don't judge them by how they look right now. But grape vines are a perennial. These are several years old, and we trim them back every year, and every year they come back and give us beautiful leaves. They haven't really given us a lot of grapes yet, although this year we did get some grapes that were super sweet and delicious, and so I'm really looking forward to them continuing to age and get better and better every year and hopefully produce more and more every year. But even without producing a ton of grapes, grape vines produce. I'm realizing I'm pointing with these moringa seeds. I picked these before I filmed this, obviously. So they're just in my hand. So I'm gonna be pointing with these, but these are moringa seed pods. That's what they are, in case anyone gets distracted. I just realized I distracted myself. Anyway, grape vines produce fantastic leaves that you can eat. And I'm pretty sure you can eat them raw. Yeah, you can eat them raw. Put them in smoothies and salads. You also can dry them and turn them into a tea, and then you can cook them and throw them into soups. So this is an excellent source of greens that you can have at your disposal for much of the year. And then in summer, you end up with grapes. And hopefully, like I said, every year we'll end up with more and more grapes, because that does seem to be how it's going. And then especially now that we finally got trellises installed, the trellises are actually new and they're growing bigger, and I really anticipate a much better harvest in summer. But yeah, they take the heat so well. This is a west-facing wall in our yard, and they get a ton of afternoon hot heat, and they're doing fantastic. So anyway, grapes got to be number one on the list. Well, just because it happened to be number one. Really, number one for me would be moringa. Moringa is insanely nutritious. It's funny, it's starting to show up in stores a lot now. But it does fantastic here. It doesn't require very much water at all. And it grows insanely fast. So this tree is about 4 years old. This one is a little over a year old. Both of them have grown from seed. And this one, which is funny, like if you look at the canopy of this moringa and see right here where these sticks are, you see where they end. There's some sticks like here and here and here where they end. That's where I trimmed it last. And we're talking like a few months ago. And look at that. It's crazy how fast and how tall they grow. So this will put off growth like you would not believe, with very little effort. And actually you have to trim it back harshly every year if you want it to branch out and give you more branches. Otherwise it would just grow as a stick. So like you can see the difference between that one, which has been trimmed more times, versus this one, which is still kind of very thin and doesn't have a lot of branches. But you know, I'll go and trim these back, and then we'll get more branches on this one, then even more branches on that one. And they're just insanely nutritious. The dried seeds you can even grind up to purify water. The flowers are edible. The leaves are edible, although I do believe the flowers can give you some gastric upset if you consume too many of them at once. But like in moderation, they're fine. The leaves are fantastic. Again, super nutritious. You can eat them fresh in salads, or you can cook them into your soups. You can dry them and turn them into a powder that you add to your foods and make your own moringa superfood smoothie powder. This is just a fantastic thing. And oh yeah, the seed pods, when they're young, you can eat those almost like green beans, which I never do because I want the seeds. So I'm collecting moringa seeds like you would not believe, because I give them away to people locally, because I just think this plant is so important to have in our central Arizona gardens, and just does so well, and it's just so wonderful all around, for so many reasons. So that's a great one to have if you can get yourself some moringa seeds, or like, you know, if you're local and you know me, just say, hey, Kathy, I want some seeds. I'll give you some. I have jars of seeds. I will give you some. But yeah, so those are great too. And then while I'm over here, Mexican blue elderberry is another one. And I'm sorry the sun has come out, So we've got Mexican blue elderberry, which is a perennial. It is not as medicinal as the Sambucus nigra, which is the black elderberry, but black elderberry does not grow here. Mexican blue elderberry is medicinal and edible. Not all elderberries are, but this one is, and it is a perennial in our area. So over summer, it definitely takes a beating. You can see that it's kind of only just now coming back, all this gorgeous green. And soon I will be trimming it back and then propagating the sticks that I trim. So here's one that I did last year. And it actually, I thought that it died over summer, but it didn't. It's still doing great. So I am so happy about that. And hopefully this one will take take off this year and get a much bigger plant that hopefully will do a little better over summer months, but this one still is fine. And I'm looking forward to having basically a whole grove of Moringa and Mexican blue elderberry out here as productive medicinal plants in the garden. So yeah. Okay, moving on over here to my rosemary. I talk a lot about these rosemary bushes, but these are a few years old and you can just cut them back and they grow right back. They're in the ground and they're doing fantastic. They take the heat like superstars. And they are currently shading this bed and doing very well. And so you have a wonderful source of, again, another beautifully medicinal plant, some vitamins and minerals all year long. This thing never goes away. It never stops being green. And it's always there and just ready to go into anything I want it to go into. And it even is home to wildlife. I see lizards like fly out of this bed or fly out of these rosemary when I start watering. Sorry, little guys. And then I see praying mantises and all kinds of things. It's home to wildlife and just creates ecosystem, and that is a beautiful thing. There's a little bit more of it over here where the sweet potatoes are. And I'm hoping that these two rosemary plants will grow up soon to be like this one. They actually already are quite large compared to what they were when I put them in the ground, so they're doing fantastic. And pretty soon that bed will also be covered by rosemary like this, and I can get rid of my super mega ultra high-tech shade that I put up with these chairs this year, which actually I could probably move at this point. But anyway, moving on, we have some garlic chives, which you can see are growing in my channels along the sides of these beds. Garlic chives are fantastic. They also take the heat very well. These plants are at least 2 or 3 years old. I started with one tiny plant at the same time as I bought these rosemary, and then I split it one time, and now this is where they are, and they're probably definitely ready to be pulled up and split again. But I'm waiting for the flowers to be done because I want the seeds. So I am gonna go ahead and do that. Once I get the seeds out of these plants. But these do fantastic all summer long. They're doing great. So this is another one that I would say plant. Green onions, I'm going to say as an honorable mention, because they get to a certain point where they flower, and then, or they kind of get to a certain point where they kind of get too big and they're no longer very yummy. But they also great in the heat, and they will live for at least a year or two. So that's not really a perennial, but sorry, look at my friend. She's working so hard. Okay, sorry. That is not really a perennial because you have to replant it every now and then. But I mean, come on, just every now and then grab yourself some organic green onions, use them, and then stick the root end in the ground, and you'll end up with green onion for like forever. Again, that's another one that does really well in the heat. And moving right along, we have sage, which is, I think, the last one I'm going to talk about. Kind of looking around. Yes, I'm pretty sure that is. So sage is a perennial here. It will live for quite a few years as long as you give it just the mildest protection during summer. So that is what this pepper plant is doing for my sage. I purposefully planted those over it so that it would be shaded. And it's almost time to trim it back. But this is another one that is green all year long, and just fantastic. So this bed actually is one of my sunniest beds. It lives in the very middle of my yard and gets sun pretty much all day long. But this sage was kept very happy by the canopy of peppers. And I am suddenly realizing that I have literally never had peppers. These are jalapeno peppers. I've literally never been successful growing jalapenos until this year. They are doing so well, and I am now suddenly wondering if the sage and jalapeno peppers are actually really good friends, and I didn't know that before. So this could be a potential companion planting pairing, which I'm going to keep in mind moving forward. It's possible the sage and the peppers help each other out, because like I said, I've never seen my peppers get this big, and they were so happy and so wonderful. And actually it's the end of September and they are still producing peppers for me. So anyway, but that is just my quick discussion on, quick 11 minutes. This is quick for me. Quick discussion on the perennials that I purposefully plant and grow in my garden. I definitely do grow a lot of annuals, but I am working harder at putting more and more perennials into my garden planning, because that's much more of a permaculture system. So anyway, next probably coming out into the yard will be passion fruit. That's the one that is on my radar, because passion fruit is another perennial that does very well here, and then even ends up producing a fruit and then also a beautiful flower that attracts pollinators, but is also useful in herbal medicine. So that's, I guess, a bonus one that I don't have out here yet, but that you could look into as well. And I guess that is all. If you found this helpful and you want more content like this, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share, and yeah, do everything you can if you feel like it to help our channel grow. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. Bye.